Nia Hammond stood at the threshold of Gate 45 at LAX, her 12-year-old frame dwarfed by the sleek glass and steel of the terminal. Her heart fluttered like the paper wings of her boarding pass, first class, seat 1A. She tightened the strap on her small Navy Mule backpack, the one stitched with her initials in silver thread, and lifted her chin. Today was her first solo flight, but she'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in front of her bedroom mirror back in Chicago. "Excuse me, kiddo, are you sure you're in the right place?" The gate agent's tone was polite enough, but the eyebrows that shot up betrayed his surprise. Nia forced a steady smile. "Yes, sir," she said softly, holding up her printed ticket. "I'm going to Chicago." She watched his eyes flicker to the name Nia J. Hammond, then back to her small form. He nodded once, handed back her ticket stub, and barely glanced at her as she stepped forward. As she walked down the jet bridge, the hush of first class enveloped her. The buttery leather seats, the polished wood accents, the low hum of polite conversation, it all felt so foreign. She paused for just a heartbeat to let it sink in. Seat 1A, right at the front by the window. Then she tucked her boarding pass into her jacket pocket and slid into her seat, placing her backpack carefully on the floor. A few rows back, an older woman in pearls glanced over and murmured loud enough for several people to hear, "Kids shouldn't be in first class alone." The words pricked at Nia's cheeks, but she didn't look up. Instead, she reached into her jacket for the edge of the photo frame tucked inside, a picture of her and her grandfather in front of his very first Silverline jet. She traced the outline of his smile before sliding the photo back into her pocket. The flight attendant appeared next, clipboard in hand, and paused at her row. "Are you traveling alone, miss?" he asked, voice neutral but eyes calculating. Nia met his gaze. "Yes," she replied evenly. "First solo trip." He nodded once, jotted something on his manifest, and moved on without another word. Each step he took away felt like a small victory. She belonged here as much as anyone else. She pressed her back against the seat, took a slow breath, and let the engine's roar settle beneath her ribs. She wasn't here to prove a point. She was here to observe, to remember, and above all, to stay calm. Because, in just a few hours, the real flight, one of secrets, power, and unexpected justice, was only beginning. 12 minutes after takeoff, the cabin lights dimmed to a soft glow, and passengers settled into their plush, leather seats. Nia Hammond sat perfectly still in 1A, her slender back pressed against the headrest. Through the oval window, California's coastline shimmered like a ribbon of light. She reached into her jacket pocket and fingered the edge of her grandfather's photo. One small comfort before the storm. A click of heels echoed down the aisle. Mr. Bradley Travis, the flight attendant in his crisp Navy uniform, stopped just in front of Nia. He folded his arms, head tilted slightly as though sizing her up. Nia's pulse caught in her throat, but outwardly she remained composed. "Miss," he said, his voice smooth but carrying an unmistakable edge, "this seat is reserved for our premium guests." He didn't glance at her boarding pass, which she held out. He gave it a dismissive tap with the tip of his pen, as if it were a child's drawing. "This is seat 1A, Nia replied quietly. "That's what my ticket says." He sighed, the sound loud enough for a few nearby passengers to notice. "I'm sure it does, but this section is for adults who understand fine travel etiquette." His eyebrows shot up, and he swept his gaze across the cabin, as if making sure everyone saw his point. "I'm going to need you to gather your things and move to economy." A soft murmur rippled through the first-class rows. Nia felt a blush rise in her cheeks, part embarrassment, part anger, but she kept her voice steady. "I bought this ticket," she said. "I paid for this seat." "You're 12, he said. leaning in close enough that she could smell his cologne. "And you're in the wrong place. Let me help you find your correct location." He reached for her backpack. For a moment, Nia's chest tightened, ready to snap. Yet she didn't flinch. She let his hand brush the fabric, and when he lifted the bag to inspect it, the little photo frame inside tumbled out, sliding across the aisle with a crash. Glass shattered. A hush fell over the cabin as passengers turned to look. The older woman, in pearls in onesie, tapped her companion's arm and whispered, "Kids these days, no respect." Travis' gaze flickered to the broken frame, then back to Nia, a faint smirk playing at his lips. "See? Not the right fit," he said, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Nia's heart pounded. She pressed her palms to her lap, fighting the urge to snatch the frame from under him. Instead, she took a slow breath, watched the shards glint in the overhead light, and nodded once. "Okay," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Lead the way." As she rose to follow him down the aisle, a single thought steadied her. They had no idea who she really was, nor the power she held, and right now, she was exactly where she needed to be. Nia's small hand brushed the cool metal armrest as she stood, each movement measured. The moment she rose from seat 1A, Mr. Travis yanked her backpack free of her grip. The strap slipped through his gloved fingers, and the bag tumbled forward. Nia's eyes widened as the little silver frame slipped out and skidded across the aisle. Time slowed. The glass front of the frame fractured with a sharp ping against the plush carpet, shards glinting like fallen stars, and the photograph of her grandfather. His broad smile and strong pilot's uniform splayed on the floor. A hush fell over first class. The whispered tinkle of shattered glass was louder than the engine's roar. Nia felt heat flood her cheeks. She stood motionless, legs small and unsteady, as around her dozens of eyes turned in unison. She didn't cry, she didn't stammer. Instead, she knelt, gathering the broken pieces with trembling fingers. Each shard cut her skin, but she didn't flinch. She traced her thumb along the split edge, careful not to crush the image of her grandfather's face. "Cabin disturbance!" Mr. Travis barked into his lapel mic, voice echoing off the polished walls. "Possible ticket fraud. We have a problem in first class." He didn't wait for a response. He straightened his jacket and turned to the nearby passengers with a practiced smile. "Thank you for your patience. We'll have security address this shortly." A flight attendant hurried past, her eyes flicking over the scattered glass, then darting away. The hush in the cabin turned to low muttering. What happened? Is she okay? Did she steal her ticket? The questions buzzed in Nia's ears like a swarm of bees. She clasped the photo fragments against her chest and rose to her feet. The subtle sting on her fingertips was nothing compared to the ache in her heart. She inhaled, steadying herself. Not here. Not now. Not in anger, but in sorrow, she shouldered her backpack and allowed Mr. Travis to guide her down the aisle. Every step was a silent scream. Her white-knuckled grip on her bag was the only sign of the storm inside. The woman in pearls nudged her companion and whispered, "Serves her right." Nia felt each word like a physical blow, but she held her head high. As she passed her former seat, she spared it one last glance. The leather looked untouched, pristine. She would reclaim it, she promised herself, not with shouts or tears, but with something far stronger. Because soon, every fragment of that broken frame and every fragment of injustice would be pieced back together on her terms. Nia slipped into the narrow pew of seat 43C at the back of the plane, her knobby knees pressed against the seat in front. The overhead bins clicked shut behind her, sealing off first-class luxury. Around her, economy passengers adjusted their neck pillows and popped earbuds into place, oblivious to the drama that had just unfolded up front. A flight attendant passed by, offering bottled water with a practiced smile. Nia accepted it without a word, her gaze already fixed on the small tablet resting on her lap. She pressed the power button and watched the screen glow to life. The login prompt appeared, Observa. Beneath it, a motion-activated PIN pad flickered. 12 digits. Not a child's passcode, but a cipher her grandfather taught her when she was 9. She whispered the sequence as her thumb brushed the scanner and the system unlocked with a single, soft chime. A dashboard filled the screen. Flight number, tail number, crew assignments, and, hidden behind an innocuous Analytics tab, the incident mode that only she could activate. Her fingers hovered for a heartbeat. The cabin lights dimmed further as the seatbelt sign blinked on. Passengers settled in for the long haul. Perfect timing. He tapped record flight 83 motor incident mode, and a progress bar slid across the screen. Observa whirred quietly, establishing secure feeds to the flight manifest, crew override logs, and even the in-fleet communication channel. Every passenger shuffle, every whispered verdict, every click of Mr. Travis's pen would be cataloged. For the first time since she'd stepped onto the plane, Nia felt a small spark of control light inside her chest. Company stood together, and one of the business travelers in row 39 traded stuffed animals, giggling softly. A business traveler across the aisle typed furiously on her laptop. None of them would ever know that a corner of their flight was being watched by a girl half their age. The thought made Nia's chest tighten, not with shame, but with purpose. She pulled her backpack close, careful to tuck the fractured silver frame safely inside its protective sleeve. She'd collected enough evidence to dismantle the narrative that kids don't belong in first class. Now, she was building the cold, hard data her grandfather had always insisted on. Facts don't lie, Nia. People do. The tablet buzzed, indicating the recording was live. Nia took a slow sip of water, her face calm and resolute. She let the evening sun paint stripes of orange across the window, turning the clouds into molten gold. In that quiet moment, she promised herself she would let the system do the talking, because soon, every ember of injustice would have nowhere to hide, and the flames of accountability would consume them all. Nia sat hunched in seat 43C, the tablet's glow casting pale light on her focused expression. Around her, the hum of the economy cabin blended with the occasional clink of drink carts and passengers rustling in their seats. She adjusted the edge of her navy backpack, mindful that the broken photo frame remained tucked safely inside its padded pocket. A soft click signaled a refrigerator door sliding open. Nia looked up to see a young flight attendant, Priya, approaching with a reusable bottle of water. Her name tag read Priya Kapoor, and her warm eyes contrasted sharply with the frosty air Nia had felt from Mr. Travis just moments before. "Here you go," Priya said, offering the bottle with a sympathetic smile. Her hand lingered for a fraction longer than protocol demanded. Nia nodded in thanks and twisted off the cap. Priya glanced around, lowered her voice until it was little more than a whisper. I'm so sorry about what happened up front," she said quietly. Her accent carried a gentle lilt. You're Nia Hammond, right? Mr. Hammond's daughter?" Time seemed to slow. Nia's heart sped up, a flicker of surprise racing through her. At 12 years old, she was still learning how to navigate adult worlds, airports, rights, power. And now, here was Priya, seeing past her size and age to the truth behind her calm demeanor. She inclined her head, voice soft but steady. "Yes?" She pressed her free hand flat against her tablet. Please, don't say anything. Just, if you could email me the finalized seat manifest when we land, I'd appreciate it." Priya hesitated, eyes widening with concern and understanding. "Of course," she said, voice unsteady. "Anything you need." She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear and offered Nia an encouraging nod before moving on down the aisle. As Priya disappeared, Nia pressed fingertip to chin, letting out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. The plane's gentle sway felt less unsettling now that someone else had acknowledged her. She raised the water to her lips and let the cool liquid calm her senses. In the small suffering of betrayal and humiliation, Priya's quiet solidarity felt like a lifeline. Nia tapped the incident mode on Observa, the screen confirming that the recording was still live. She reminded herself of her grandfather's words, "Real strength isn't in raising your voice, it's in being heard without shouting." For the first time since boarding, Nia allowed herself a flicker of relief. Not relief for her seat or the broken frame, but relief that someone, however hesitantly, had chosen to see her. And with that knowledge fueling her, she returned her focus to the tablet. Because true change, she knew, would come not from calling attention to herself, but from shining a light on every hidden injustice in the cabin. Nia's fingers hovered over the tablet as she scrolled through Observa's hidden logs. The cabin's clatter felt distant now. She was deep inside her own private command center. Each line on the screen represented a flight, a date, a single click on a manifest that reshaped someone's journey. 12, she whispered, tracing the list with her fingertip. 12 times Travis had overridden a passenger's valid boarding pass and sent them to economy without question. 12 names, all black or brown, all bumped from seats they'd paid for. She tapped one entry, Flight 611, Chicago to Miami, March 4th. The override reason? Guest doesn't fit first-class profile. No further explanation. A knot tightened in her chest. 12. 12 moments of quiet disgrace. 12 people whose faces, like hers today, must have fallen when the cabin attendant said, "I'm showing you in the wrong seat." 12 moments that nobody recorded. Until now. She clenched her jaw, remembering how her own ticket had been ignored. The broken frame, symbolic. But this was systemic. An unspoken rule enforced by the man in the crisp navy jacket. Time and again, her pulse settled into a slow thrum. Anger was there, but it was steady, channeled. She wasn't 12 going on tantrum. She was 12 going on purpose. The tablet lit up with another notification. Recording active. Data stream to secure server. Good. She let the screen scroll and pulled up the next flight log. Flight 742, New York to Los Angeles just last week. Same override note, same pattern. A dozen times, never an apology, never a question. Just the click of a pen and the cold calculation of not fitting the profile. She exhaled and tapped the Export Report button. A CSV file compiled every instance of bias. Times, dates, passenger names, and that damning override code. With a quick swipe, Nia sent it to a secure Dropbox she'd set up with her grandfather's old attorney. In less than a minute, the evidence would be in legal hands, ready for the next step. Her gaze drifted back to the window. The sun was slipping below the clouds, casting long shadows across the wing. For the first time since the incident, Nia felt a spark of calm confidence. This wasn't just about her seat. It was about every person who'd ever been told they didn't belong. On a flight, in a room, in a world that saw them as less. She tucked the tablet into her lap and set her jaw. 12 moments, 12 pieces of proof. And soon, every one of them would be impossible to ignore. Because she wasn't just recording history, she was shaping the future. A soft buzz in her backpack told Nia she wasn't alone in monitoring the cabin. She pulled out her phone. Just a simple notification from TikTok, nothing more. But when she unlocked it, her breath caught. There, on the screen, was a 15-second clip from a fellow passenger's POV. Travis ripping her ticket from her hand, tossing her backpack, the photo frame crashing to the floor. Over it, a text overlay read, "They just kicked out a teen from business class and gave her seat to an old white woman." Below, the hashtag, "She did nothing wrong," pulsed in bright red. The view count was already skyrocketing, 50,000, then almost 100,000 within seconds. Comments scrolled faster than she could read. Unbelievable. That woman's a disgrace. Where are the adults in charge? And then one that made her heart skip a beat. "I think that's Nia Hammond. I worked on her dad's server last year." Her gut twisted. Priya's whispered confirmation minutes ago, the evidence report she'd sent to legal. Everything was converging in that one line. It wasn't just any kid. It was the Hammond heir. The girl with the $240 million 0 cents proxy. She felt her cheeks flush hot, but she kept her face calm. Somewhere behind her, a flight attendant laughed at a joke. Nia pressed her finger to the screen. The video froze on Travis's smirk. She tapped share, sending it privately to 2 trusted contacts, her grandfather's estate attorney and the one reporter she knew to trust. Then she closed the app. A ripple of whispers rolled past her row. "Did you see that clip? She's famous now." A business traveler glanced back, eyes wide with surprise and sympathy. A mother hugged her toddler close. The cabin crew, busy at carts and drink service, suddenly looked off balance, uncertain. Nia slid her phone back into her pocket and exhaled. The real power of Observa had been to build undeniable proof. Now the proof was public, viral beyond any boardroom. Travis would find himself in a storm that couldn't be quieted by a neat apology or a generic corporate statement. She returned her focus to the small screen of her tablet, where Observa logged yet another event. External media mentioned detected. A new alert, potential PR breach, Flight 883. Nia allowed herself the smallest smile. The tide was turning, and the world was watching. Because sometimes, justice doesn't wait for a jury. It takes one video and a global audience to expose the truth. And this time, they couldn't look away. Back in Silverline's gleaming headquarters on the 52nd floor, the tension was palpable. Chief Executive Officer Maya Sinclair stared at her laptop, eyes flicking between 2 windows, a live social media feed on the left and Silverline's internal dashboard on the right. A bright red alert blinked under compliance flags. Code 47, triggered action detected. She pressed her temple, as if the pain might go away. "James," she called over her shoulder. James O'Leary, the head of legal and risk, hurried into her office, tie loosened and phone in hand. "Maya, we've got a situation," James said, voice clipped. "Our internal system just suspended the entire crew from Flight 8383. Looks like it was an automated trigger." Maya's brow shot up. "Suspend them? That's a full compliance lockdown protocol. That only happens if the controlling shareholder..." Proxy authority. Flags discriminatory behavior. In plain English, someone with legal power just froze our cabin crew. James tapped his phone screen, and it's signed off by Nia Hammond. Maya's chest constricted. Nia Hammond. She's 12. She can't... She's the legal proxy for Hammond Aviation Fund, James interrupted, voice low. She controls $240 million, 0 cents in shares. Overnight, her proxy right activated an emergency override. We can't reverse it without her direct consent. Maya stood up, pacing. How did a 12-year-old pull this off behind our back? She ran her fingers through her hair. Is she being blackmailed? Hacked? This is a nightmare. James flicked through his notes. Not a hack. It looks like she used the Observa app, our in-house behavior monitoring system. She built the back end. She has admin-level access. Maya swiped the screen, opening the passenger relations log. A flurry of tweets and news clips scrolled in. She did nothing wrong, trending globally. Interviews with outraged travelers, demands for Silverline's response. We need a statement now, she said. A public apology, a PR team on standby, and legal containment. James shook his head. It's too late for containment. This is Nia calling the shots. We have to engage her directly. Maya's jaw clenched. Arrange a secure call. Her attorney, now. And draft a memo to the board chair. They need to convene immediately. This override protocol can't stay in limbo. As James left to orchestrate the emergency measures, Maya sank back into her chair. The city lights of Chicago stretched below her. She thought of the girl, a child, who had watched every slight and turned it into systematic accountability. A small voice inside her admitted it. Nia Hammond had exposed a rot Silverline would never fully bury. Maya straightened. Let's hope she's reasonable, she whispered, because right now, we answer to her. Mr. Travis knocked once on the heavy gray door marked Security Office, then stepped inside when the guard offered a curt nod. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, illuminating a small windowless room with 2 chairs and a steel desk. His palms were damp on his polished shoes, a rare breach of nerves for the usually unflappable flight attendant. Sit, the guard said, motioning to the lone chair opposite his own. Travis lowered himself into it, smoothing the crease of his uniform pants. He watched the guard thumb through a stack of printouts. The door clicked shut, sealing off the hallway's chatter. After an awkward silence, the guard cleared his throat. Name's Officer Delgado. You were requested from Flight 883? Travis forced a civil smile. Yes, sir. Can you tell me what this is about? Delgado set a single sheet of paper on the desk. A copy of the cabin manifest, annotations in bold red type. Something unusual happened up front. Passenger complained about the handling of her valid first-class ticket. Travis's throat tightened. That wasn't a complaint, she was mistaken. Delgado leaned forward, voice low. Do you know who that girl was? Travis shook his head, nerves threading tight through his chest. No, I didn't recognize her, just a minor with what seemed like a bogus upgrade. The guard gave him a long look, then tapped the paper again. She's not just any minor. This ticket? It's linked to a controlling interest worth $240 million. 0 cents. Travis's breath hitched. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. That can't be right. Delgado's expression was unreadable. It's right. He slid over a second printout, this one from the airline's shareholder registry. Travis's eyes darted over the rows of text until a single bold line jumped out. Hammond Aviation Fund, Proxy. Nia J. Hammond, 240 million USD. The realization hit him like a thunderclap. The girl he'd belittled, the one he'd thrown to economy and shattered her photo frame, she legally owned the company he worked for. And with that ownership came real power. Travis's face went pale. He stared at the guard, wordless, as Delgado continued. She activated an emergency override. Code 47. The entire crew from your flight is suspended, pending investigation. The room spun. Travis stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. Suspended? You're saying an actual child just locked me out of my job? Delgado's tone was softer now, almost clinical. Not locked out, held accountable. You'll have a chance to respond, but for now, you'll report to HR on arrival. Travis stumbled back toward the door, chest tight. As it swung open, he paused and glanced down the corridor, half expecting to see Nia herself waiting. Instead, he walked out into the bright airport terminal, alone, with the hum of fluorescent lights and the weight of his mistake. He had underestimated a girl, and now, because of that, his world, once so certain, had quietly collapsed around him. The moment the last passenger stepped off Flight 883, the cabin crew's tablets chimed in unison. A single email had just landed in every inbox, from the flight attendants in crisp Navy uniforms to the gate agents who'd met the jet at the jetway. Subject line, bold and unmissable. Emergency override protocol activated. Flight 883, crew suspended. Bradley Travis was at the front of the line, stowing away service carts, when his tablet lit up. He tapped it, expecting an operational update. Instead, the screen displayed a terse notice. All crew members associated with Flight 833 are hereby suspended pending compliance audit. Signed, Nia J. Hammond. Legal proxy, Hammond Aviation Fund. Controlling $240 million USD in Silverline shares? Travis's breath hitched. He stared at the signature like it was a ghost. Nia J. Hammond, 12 years old, the quiet girl he'd ripped from first class, now held the authority to ground him, demote him, erase his livelihood. His fingers shook as he set the tablet down on the armrest. Behind him, the lead pursuer, Ms. Chen, swiped her own screen. Her eyes went wide. "What in the world?" she murmured, voice cracking. "This can't be real." Next to her, a junior attendant, who'd covered for Travis on countless flights, checked his device. He swiped up, then let out a strangled laugh. It's from her. She actually did it." The murmurs grew into a low roar of confusion. Flight attendants who had just been congratulating each other on a smooth landing now looked like deer in headlights. The gate agents at the door exchanged wary glances as their screens lit up with the same decree. In an instant, the clinical precision of corporate power had fallen like a guillotine. No warnings, no HR memos, just a single sentence and a child's name that carried more weight than any manager's. Travis's uniform felt too tight, his posture too rigid. He inhaled, trying to steady himself. Behind him, Miss Chen's lips pressed into a thin line. She tapped her tablet and whispered, "We have to report to HR immediately." As the crew filed out in stunned silence, tablets held at chest height like shields, Travis took a moment to look back at the cabin. Seat 1A sat empty, the leather unwrinkled and pristine. The polish on the wood gleamed under the overhead lights. He could almost hear Nia's quiet promise. She had the receipts, and now the system itself had done her bidding. Down the aisle, Priya's gaze met his. No triumph in her eyes, only sorrow. Travis exhaled and followed the others, each step echoing in the hushed terminal. The world had shifted in a single automated message, and he was left to face the consequences. All because he'd underestimated a girl. All because, in the age of data and code, silence could still deliver the loudest blow. Later that evening, Nia sat in a quiet conference room at Silverline's Chicago offices. Virtual, of course, via a secure video link. On the screen before her were the faces of Maya Sinclair, the CEO, James O'Leary, head of legal, and two members of HR, all looking as stunned as Travis had been. Nia took a breath. "I'm not here to demand firings," she began, voice steady but firm. Today's actions were automatic. A system I helped build detected bias. That system did its job. Now, I'm asking you to give everyone the tools to do the right job, too. She clicked over to a slide titled Cabin Justice Framework. I propose a permanent bias reporting platform, monitored by an independent third party. Every flight attendant, gate agent, and crew member will have a confidential channel to flag discrimination. No retaliation, full transparency, and real consequences for repeat offenders. Maya leaned forward. You want oversight, externally monitored? Yes, Nia replied. And I want to audit it quarterly. Priya Kapoor, she said, turning to the young attendant who joined on the call, will lead a pilot team that trains every crew member on empathy and equity standards. Priya smiled, nerves giving way to purpose. I'd be honored, she said softly. Nia nodded. This isn't revenge. It's building a culture where no 12-year-old, or anyone else, gets told they don't belong. Let's fix the system together. Silence gave way to quiet agreement. And with that, Nia logged off, her small voice echoing larger changes to come. Back in her little control room, Nia sat cross-legged on the hardwood floor, tablet balanced on her knees. The glow from 2 monitors flickered across her determined face. One screen displayed the new Cabin Justice dashboard. Bias reports down 74% in just 2 weeks, anonymous feedback up 300%, and a real-time log of every crew member's completed empathy training. She tapped a final confirmation. Activate quarterly audit reminder. A small pop-up read, next audit scheduled in 90 days. Nia smiled to herself, not because she'd won a personal battle, but because the entire system had shifted permanently. Behind her, the framed photo of her and Grandpa hovered on the wall, its crack long since mended. She stood, walked over, and traced the image with a fingertip. You taught me to fix things that break, she whispered. This is for you. Her phone buzzed, an email from Maya Sinclair. Subject, thanks for leading the way. Maya wrote, your framework is already saving lives and careers. We'll never allow this to happen again. Nia powered down her tablet, heart calm. She didn't need applause or headlines. She'd given dozens of kids exactly what they deserved, a fair chance at Seat 1A and a company brave enough to respect them. She closed the door behind her and walked into the quiet Chicago night, knowing the real journey had only just begun.